Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we are going to continue our study of paper 45. We're in section 4, paragraph 17, and that's on 514 of the original book, if you have the original book. Let's say a little prayer, and we will get started. Let me get to the right screen here. Okay, I think we're ready. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight to study this wonderful revelation. We thank you for the opportunity to do this. We thank you for all we learn each week as we go through these papers. Pray that you'll watch over our world. We pray that you'll bless those people in Israel who are struggling with the war again. We pray that you'll be with them and bless those who believe in you. We thank you. We give you the praise in your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, here we go. And I want to mention that one more time, Neil, for all these folks at home that don't know about it. Rodney, have you still got that picture handy?
Sure.
Okay, throw that back up here so that I don't have to go through mine.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, if you ever want to look at the screen, Rodney's going to say something and then I'll show you the screen. Say something so your picture comes up, Rodney.
Yeah, this book right here.
Okay, everybody got a picture of it. Okay, this is called The Resurrection Halls, Mansion World Odyssey by Richard Warren. And we, Neil in our group told us about it, I guess it was last week or the week before. Was it last week, Neil?
Last week.
Yeah, and I've read about 9 chapters in it, I think, and it is so wonderful. It's unbelievable. So I highly recommend y'all go out and get it. It's on Kindle. You can download it for free on Kindle, or you can order it for, I think it's like $4 on paperback.
No, it's
something like that.
$12.
Oh, is it $12? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, must be thinking of the Kindle version you paid for. And there's Gary. So I highly recommend you go out and get it. It will, if you read the Urantia book, it'll tickle your soul. All kinds of joy in that book. Yeah. So let's get started here. Diane's not up with us yet. She's still working on the cats. So Jane, would you, oh, there she comes right now. So, well, still, Jane, you can take the first paragraph there. It's a short one. I'll let Diane.
Okay. Did you say the prayer, Roger?
Yes, I did. I got it right out of the book and the white here in the white.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. All right.
All right.
Yeah, let Diane breathe. So you go ahead and take the first one.
Okay. 15. John the Baptist, the forerunner of Michael's mission on Urantia, and in the flesh, distant cousin of the Son of Man.
Okay, if y'all remember in the life of Christ, when John the Baptist was in prison, Jesus did not take action at all. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Everybody remember that? And it made you wonder why Jesus did not rescue John the Baptist, didn't it? Okay, and this is why. He had a personal mission for John the Baptist to sit on the 24, and he felt like John's work on the earth was done, so it was time for him to leave. So that is why Jesus did not rescue John the Baptist. Okay, when your time is done here and it's time for you to go on to the mansion worlds, there is nothing, I mean absolutely nothing going to stop it. Okay, unless you get a celestial authorization that they have something on this planet they want you to do. Right? Okay.
Where do you put those requests in at?
Huh?
Where do
You
you
don't
put
have
those
you don't have to. That's the job. If your thought adjuster decides that there's something you need to do, he'll relay that to your guardian angels. Guardian angels relays it to the local universe mother spirit, and so they'll put you on hold on this planet until that sets time that they feel like they need you to go. Right? because at birth, we all have a date of leaving, okay? The time we die. And they forecast that, they know it ahead of time, so they know when to expect you on the mansion worlds.
Kind
S-
of comforting.
So, huh?
It's kind of comforting.
Yeah. Future things, yeah, like that.
And
So.
I got a question. If
Yeah,
that
Gary.
is so, why do we have to eat all these healthy foods and stuff like that?
Because it's our job to keep this temple of the thought adjuster as well as possible so that he can do his work and use you to do God's work. Make sense? So,
Yeah, I just don't like your answer.
well,
Come up
sorry.
with another one.
If you don't want the truth, don't ask the question. Because I'm not a liar. I do a lot of things, but I don't lie. You can ask my wife. I'm brutally honest sometimes, right?
It's brutal.
Okay.
Brutal and-
Uh, So anyway, so they know when you're coming and going, and unless you've got a specific job they need done on this planet, that's not going to change. Okay. Regardless who thinks otherwise, that's the truth. Okay. So John the Baptist was, Michael's cousin. He was also the forerunner to the Jesus's mission on earth. So he prepared it for Jesus's mission. And then when he died, he went on through the mansion worlds, just like we will. And when he became a Jerusalem citizen, he was assigned to the 24 counselors. All right. So let's go on to the next one. Hang on, y'all, give me a second. I must have hit something over here. There we go. Enoch. No. I love you too. You see, these cats love me, can't you? No, that was the one. Oh. The one that we all know over here. It's kind of funny on this Macintosh, it don't tell me which slide number I'm in like it does the others.
Why do I look like I'm looking up
Huh?
at the sky?
I unmute there, I can't hear you.
I said, why do I look like I'm looking up into the sky?
Because this thing is. Now put it back up. Put that back in. See, I still got you plugged in, so you can read it. There we go. Right now?
It's okay here. It looks like I'm,
Bring your screen if you want to, you know that swivels. Oh, it's okay. That works out. Bring the top down. Yeah, too far. Right there. Still look like you're kind of from the side, but this for the computers. Okay, let's see here. You're up now. Dude.
I don't want to read right now.
Oh, okay. Neil, would you take the next one, please?
Yeah. 16. 1, 2, 3, the first. The leader of the loyal Midway creatures in the service of Gabriel at the time of the Caligastia betrayal. Elevated to this position by Michael soon after his entrance upon unconditioned sovereignty.
Okay, so this was y'all remember the Midway creatures, and 1, 2, 3, the very first primary Midway creature. Okay, so when he finished everything that he was supposed to do at the time of the Caligastia betrayal, Michael allowed him to go ahead and start his ascension plan. You know, the Midwayers go through an ascension plan just like we do. Normally, they don't do that until the planet reaches light and life, unless, like this case, one is chosen because of some kind of service on the planet to go on ahead of time. And that's what happened to 1, 2, 3 the first. And after he finished his Mansion World career, then he was also assigned to the 24, one of the
Oh,
24.
Roger,
Yeah.
my question in that is when did he or when will he get a thought adjuster?
He did when he
He
started.
did.
Yeah. As soon as you have to get a thought adjuster to start your ascension plan. Okay.
So
So upon going to the Mansion World, he was probably assigned a thought adjuster, or right before he left here, he was assigned a thought adjuster. You follow me? Okay. So why would they not need a thought adjuster in the meantime, Rodney? They are assigned to this planet as the celestial core. Okay. So they're, excuse me, at that point, they're considered descending sons of God. Okay, so the Midwayer Corps in reality are local universe citizens or descending sons of God. They don't become ascending sons of God until they receive a thought adjuster and start the ascension plan, which starts with Mansion World #1. Okay, so just like in this book Neil told us about, when people wake up on the Mansion World, they would do it exactly like a normal human would be, with the exception that they would get a new body just like we would, and instead of going on as a Midwayer body, they would get a new body as a Urantia being and start the ascension plan just like we did. Okay, so they become one of us. They're still considered part of the Midwayer Corps, though, because that's their origin. Just like we will always be considered Agandanters, right? Coming from a rebellious planet, Urantia. So we will always be tagged with the fact that we came from a rebellious planet and we were loyal to God the Father through this rebellion. And the whole point is we believed in God without seeing him. Okay, we're faith sons of God. And so we're in the Agandanter Corps at that point, and we're considered very useful to the universe because we know what rebellion does already, right? So
Midway creatures are considered spiritual beings.
Spiritual, I hate to use the word spiritual because they're celestial beings. Okay, they're not on their spiritual level. When I think of spiritual, I think of a level of existence, right? Just like mortal is one level, Urantia is another level, and there's multiple levels in your Urantia level, and then spirit, there's 7 levels actually, but there's 6 we go through before the Supreme comes into full view. Which
what I was thinking, it must have been interesting for this Midwayer to, once he had I guess you call it semi-material Urantia body,
right?
he would have to deal with a material body.
Yes, a Urantia material body, right? And is that Tim out there?
Yay, Roger. How you doing
Tim.
tonight?
Hey,
Can you hear
Tim,
me?
how you
Can you?
Yeah,
I'm doing
yeah.
great.
can hear you,
glad,
buddy.
glad to see you.
Really
Yeah.
great to be with everybody here tonight.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
Hi,
Good.
Rodney.
Hey, buddy.
Stop video. Okay. I think
Okay.
Can I ask a
Gary,
question?
yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Where did the Midwayers originate from? I got this idea that, it's kind of vague, but somebody, when there was, the different races was coming about, every
You're
other one was a different race, and they got to
yeah,
a
you're
certain
thinking,
level, then there was an invisible one, they call that Midway.
yeah, that was
Am I right?
that's the secondary Midwayers. That's the secondary Midwayers. The primary Midwayers came from the Calagasta 100. Now remember, the Calagasta 100 were not considered what? Human. They were given human bodies from human DNA so that people could see them. They came from Jerusalem. They were Jerusalem citizens, which we will be after we go through the 7 mansion worlds. The difference is this: they went through all 7 mansion worlds and had not fused with their adjusters, none of them. So they put out a call on Jerusalem for volunteers to come to this planet for 1,000,000 years, probably, to help the barbarian races to grow, learn things and that sort of thing. And that's where the Midwayers came from. They were volunteers from Jerusalem. And so they were bought in mass by guardian angels or celestial transport down to this planet, given human bodies, but that made them what? That made them superhuman. When you think of shows like the Ancient Aliens and stuff like that, so they don't realize this. These Calagasta 100 and it eventually became the Nodites. The Calagasta 100 really were superhuman. They were encircuited in the local universe circuit. So that made them superhuman. If you could see one, they probably had a celestial glow around them, just like Adam and Eve. Okay.
Right, where Greek mythology came from.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what happened was Calagasta decided that he wanted to try to get the Calagasta 100, 50 men, 50 women. They had reproductive capabilities, which they were not allowed to use to start out with. They did later when they rebelled because they fell out of the circuit at that point. But while they were still encircuited, one of the couples of the male and female had a non-sexual union. Okay, so this was not the result of sex. Okay, but they literally came together as 2 separate beings, and doing that created the first, the 1, 2, 3, the first primary midwayer. Okay, and it appeared, and they could see it, and Calagasta and Dalagasta and the staff could see it, but no humans could see these. Okay, they were high level, they were midway between physical and Urantia. All right,
So
that's where
basically say they kissed.
in essence, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not a sexual union, but it was a spiritual or a brain union or mental union that brought these beings in together. And when one of them discovered they could do that, Calagasta asked all 50 to start learning from this couple and doing the same thing. And out of that came 50,000 midwayers.
Wow.
Okay, over a period of time. Now remember, the Calagasta 100 was here 500,000 years before the rebellion. Okay, so they'd been around quite a while. Excuse me.
Hey, Roger, I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
When somebody is referring to, when they're criticizing the Urantia book based on the progeny of Adam and Eve, when they
Right.
say, well, they committed incest, where you have the children, they gather up 1,000,000, and then they made among themselves, and they refer to that as incest. Now, we know from the revelation that it's not an act of incest, but how do I
No.
respond to rebuke that criticism?
Well, because it's the plan of God. It was God's plan that they create 1,000,000 children, just Adam and Eve, of pure bloodline. Okay, that was the original plan. So if it's God's plan, it's not incest. Okay, incest is outside God's plan for the world, and it's not God's plan that you marry your brothers, sisters, or your cousins. Okay, that's the difference.
Genetically speaking, we're talking about DNA. It would be like brother and sister. That would be incest. But what you're saying
Yes.
is that the material sons and daughters progeny were pure line blood. So it was totally not,
Not incest.
genetically speaking, incest. Okay.
Genetically, yeah, no, their whole DNA pattern was different than ours.
Correct.
Okay, and the plan was when they got 1,000,000 children, then their children's children would go start intermixing with all the races, and so all the races would benefit from the violet blood. And by doing this, it would got rid of disease, it would got rid of mental illness, it would have gotten rid of defective people, all these things, but it didn't come out as planned. That's why at the very end of Adam's life, his wife basically wanted him to mate with as many human beings as possible. That's where all these Old Testament things about men getting harems and stuff and all that stuff, that's where all this came from, because Eve went out and tried to find mates for Adam so that they could try to correct some of the damage they had done by not following God's plan. You follow me?
Yeah, and I had a
So-
question. Genetically
Yeah.
speaking, do we have any references throughout history in terms of species that I could compare that to? You know, with such and such species, you know, they made them on themselves and there's no defect involved. There's no retardation. Do you know of
The-
any species?
Yeah, the Nodites.
Okay, the Nodites.
The Nodites mated not only with the humans, they mated with each other, and then their children mated with each other to create more superior beings. That's why there were so many giants around for thousands of years. And by the time the Nodite blood got less and less and less, the size of human beings went back down to normal pretty quickly. But most of all the legends from the Sumerians and everyone else came from the legends of the Nodites and the giants. And the Nodites were the giants. And that's where the legends of the Watchers came from. You know, in the book of Enoch, when they talk about the Watchers, those were the primary midwayers. The primary midwayers were the Watchers, and 40,000 of the Watchers, or the primary midwayers, went into rebellion. 40,000. That's a lot. You think
Yeah.
about it, out of 50. So only 10,000 of them stayed loyal. And then comes the secondary midwayers, which are the progeny of Adam and Eve. And this is what Gary was talking about. Every fourth child was invisible. And that's where the secondary midwayers came from. And there was 2,000 of those. And out of those 2,000, I think 800 of them rebelled. So after all was said and done, the primary midwayers got together with the secondary midwayers, and they became the midwayer corps of Urantia. And it was the midwayer corps of Urantia that petitioned Jesus for the fifth epical revelation, or the book of Urantia. You know,
And Roger, when you say invisible, the children, to mortal eyes, correct? But of course, their
to
progeny.
mortal eyes, yeah, but they could see them.
Mhm, correct.
Yeah, and it freaked out Adam and Eve's children, because you know they could see him but nobody else could, right? It'd be kind of like having an imaginary friend, you know, which you could see and nobody else could. You know, it's pretty freaky. Plus the fact you had 800 of these beings running around who sided with the rebellion, and those are the ones that become the primary devils and demons, and they were led by Beelzebub. Okay.
Correct. The Prince of Midwayers,
Yeah, the Prince of the Midwayers.
the Chief of
Beelzebub,
Midwayers, yeah.
the Chief of the
Beelzebub,
Midwayers. Yeah.
or Lord,
He-
Lord of Dung.
Yeah, he was the chief of darkness, right? And
Correct.
he was the one that people really considered the devil during that period of time. Now we consider Caligastia the devil, okay? But in reality, it was Beelzebub that was really considered the devil, because he was the chief of the devils and demons. And they were on the planet until the resurrection, the day of Pentecost. They were all taken away in chains. Okay.
So just one question. It says here that the Nodites were descendants of the 60 rebellious members of the corporeal staff. These were volunteers, correct?
These were volunteers. That's
Of
correct.
Prince Caligasti, and there were 44 modified assistants of the
Right.
8th race of Urantia. When you say the 44 modified assistants, that's the
Those-
Nodites, correct?
No, that
Okay.
was the local barbarians that volunteered sperm for DNA and eggs for DNA for the bodies of the midwayers, the midwayers. I mean, the Caligastia 100. So when they did that, The surgeons of Avalon removed the DNA. When they did that, they made all the volunteers that volunteered either sperm or eggs, they encircuited those beings in the circuit, the same circuit as the Calagasta 100. And as long as those beings stayed loyal, they would live indefinitely.
Van was also a modified, wasn't he?
No, Van was one of the Calagasta 100.
Okay.
Amadon was his assistant, and he was a modified barbarian.
That's
Yes.
correct. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. History
So what
lesson.
you're saying is these things we see on the cable channels and stuff, like the celestial beings and stuff, were actually representations of, were actually things that were discussed in the Urantia book.
Yes.
We call
all
them
of it.
nodites, I think.
Nodites or nodites, either one's
Mhm.
correct.
What's
Nodites
that?
or nodites or nodites, either one's correct. Right.
Yeah, and so, you know,
Depends on who
so
you ask.
actually what we're saying, what they're revealing as supposedly new knowledge is actually already presented to us in the book.
Yeah,
So actually, it's
1934.
quite possible
early
that
five.
Egypt had divine guidance in building
Oh,
the
yeah.
pyramids.
The thing about Egypt, Gary, they've got drawings of some of these beings in the tombs of the pharaohs. Okay. They have both the Calagasta 100 and the Nodites. They have representation of these giants in the pyramids themselves, and probably some of these pictures inside the pyramids of spaceships and that sort of things are actual ships that came from other planets to check what was going on here during that period of time. So we've had aliens with us for probably 1 million years at least. Okay. And now they're quote discovering all this now, and it's been out there since the beginning of time. Okay, it was not till 1955 that it was all spelled out in the Urantia book. It was revealed in 1934, 1935, but it wasn't published to the general population until 1955. So, which was kind of interesting, because if you think of the timeline, in 47 during the crash in Roswell, okay, that's because of the crash in Roswell, that brought to the attention of the, general population, that we got visitors from other planets. Okay. So that really set it off. So the revelators of the Urantia book beat the first crash that was popular in 1947 only by about 10 or 15 years, you know. So it was time for the Urantia book to get here, so that we could become understanding of our place in the universe. If you read the Urantia book and you understand the Urantia book, you have a clear knowledge of everything that's going on in the cosmos. There's no doubt. Okay. I'm not a genius. If I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out. Okay.
Don't go that far, because I've got a long ways to go.
Well, Gary, it's just time. It's learning. You know, we all learn at different rates, and what you don't learn in this life, just like Neil told us about this book, you'll learn in the next life. This gives you a leg up. You might not stop on the first mansion world. You might go to the second or the third or the fourth mansion world and start out from there, because you're on a higher level than people that just get to the first mansion world. There's going to be people in the first mansion world that don't know anything about nothing, right? They're
Hey,
gonna be
Roger.
totally stupid. Yeah.
You know, one thing I've noticed too, in terms of teachers, based on their experience, they don't really associate it with, you know, like aliens and green aliens or
No.
Roswell. Some people choose, I think that's your right as a teacher, and you're a great teacher, but some people don't really associate it with aliens. They associate it with celestial beings or higher intelligence or super universe personalities.
Yes, that's true, Tim, but the difference is this, and that's why I use this terminology. there's a difference between a celestial personality and an alien.
Okay.
An alien is a being or a human that comes from a different planet. Okay, so in essence, the Calagassa 100 were what? Both alien and celestial beings in a sense, because they had already finished their life as a mortal. Okay, so they
Okay,
could be
thank you.
considered in both categories. But many things that's gone down through time were actually just aliens, beings from other planets that were either students coming here to figure out, watch, observe what was going on in our barbaric world, or they crashed on this planet because of some kind of physical malfunction. And so they got stuck here, and I'm sure that happens quite a lot down through time. So, and if you realize that that's the case, then it's not that strange. If you think about it, since Adam and Eve, they were material sons and daughters. They were physically material beings, just like we are as mortals. Okay, so in essence, it is not wrong to call Adam and Eve aliens, was it? Because they came from another planet, didn't they? They were given physical bodies like our planet, but we know that Adam and Eve was 8 foot tall, right? From the book. So they're not your average Joe Blow, 3.5, 4 foot long little local barbarian running around the planet with steers
Yeah.
and spears and arrows.
But
and
when you
stuff like that.
logically think about it, I mean, the effects of gravity could really control the height of people.
Yes,
So
it
Adam and
can.
Eve being 8 feet tall, depending on where your gravity is, you can be an ET short like, or you can be, a little bit
Well,
taller.
I honestly think the reason they were so tall, along with the Calagassa 100, is because the surgeons of Avalon, in order to inject this DNA into a physical body, probably needed something larger than a little small body to put it in. Okay, because it become easier to work on that way. And we don't know how good these surgeons were, right?
Yeah.
We go in and we have surgery now and it's no big deal. But you're talking a million years ago. Okay. So a million years ago, it may have been different from the surgeons of Avalon to come and insert that DNA into a physical body. It may have made it easier if it was a larger body than your normal body.
That's where the
That's what I think is the case. I really do. I think that's why Adam and Eve was 8 foot tall. Plus the fact they needed something, they needed a physical form that would literally scare the bejeebas out of all these local beings, because if not, what they're going to do, they're going to try to kill them right off the bat, right? Because they're not like them.
And based on the celestial surgery, that's where the legend of creation came from, and Genesis from the Bible.
Right. Yeah.
I just had one more important question. When we talk about the 44 modified assistants, they don't name all of them, right? But they do give us one, and that's Amadon, and that's pretty much it, right?
Amadon.
For the
No, they give
44
us some. No, there's some others that are listed, and I can't remember off the top of my head. I hadn't read that paper in quite some time, Tim. So
maybe
it's probably-
Rada?
Rada. No, Rada was
Okay.
a descendant of the Nodites.
Correct. Wife of
Right.
Adamson. Yeah.
Adamson, yeah. Actually, it was Rada that I believe it was Rada that started having some of the secondary midwayers. So
Yes, it says secondary midwayers, offspring of Adamson and Rata. Yes, thank
that's
you.
right. Yeah. So my brain still does work occasionally.
Doing great,
Oh.
Roger.
I hope I remember all this when I get to the mention worlds.
Boy, I tell you, Roger, I have the hardest time with the Adam and Eve history stuff. I really do.
Yeah. Well,
It's really hard.
You don't read it a lot. I've read it 50 times and I still can't, specifics just seem to leave me every now and then, just like the 36 planets that rebelled. Every now and then I want to try to call them 86 planets instead of 36. I keep doubling up the planets that rebelled during the rebellion. So, we're all human. What can I say? Okay, let's keep going. Did we read this page, this thing or not? Yeah, I believe we did. Let's go on to the next one.
Neil read it.
Yeah. Okay. This is a picture of John the Baptist, the first, Melchizedek, and Elijah, right? Okay, so let's go on to the next.
So that's the studied group.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Neil, I think you're up.
Right? Let's see, these selected personalities are exempt from the ascension regime for the time being on Gabriel's request, and we have no idea how long they may serve in this capacity.
Okay, so they're not going on through their ascension plan because they're serving as the 24 counselors, right? So they just stop them at that point. And you know, people think, well, that's not fair, is it? It's not got nothing to do with fair. It's just that in the universe, after we leave here, time is no essence. If they hang around another million years, it's not going to make that much difference. So they get the opportunity to serve in this way, in such a way that they would never have that opportunity from anything else. So that's why they do this. Okay, and here is a picture of the 24 seats of the 24 elders. And remember, we're coming up on the ones that are temporary here. So let's go down one more. Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Gonna say we've got 8 left to go.
Right.
Seats number 17, 18, 19, and 20 are not permanently occupied. They are temporarily filled by the unanimous consent of the 16 permanent members, being kept open for later assignment to ascending mortals from the present post-bestowal sun age on Urantia.
Okay, so this may be one of y'all's seats when you get up
Yeah.
there. You
So
know?
it's rotates.
It rotates for right now. Yeah. And they call them permanent members of the 16. These are the ones that are assigned until Gabriel releases them to go on to reassume their ascension plan. Okay.
Roger, did they tell us for how long?
No, they don't.
Okay.
It's no telling, to be honest. You know, we got to remember this, and this is a very important point. When we reach light and life, okay, when the planet reaches light and life, let's just not stop there. When all the planets in Michael's, all the 1,000 planets in our local system, only the local system, the 7 mansion worlds will no longer be needed as training fields for those that die. Okay. Do y'all understand what I just said?
Mhm.
So the
Yeah.
mansion worlds will need a new purpose.
That's right.
All right, because when we all reach light and life as planets, all 1,000 planets, then we will all be at a level that when we leave here, we would be ready for what? Jerusalem citizenship. Okay, so the 7 mansion worlds are no longer necessary. So they will use the 7 mansion worlds for something totally different. Okay, so these mansion worlds will only be used for this purpose up to the point where all 1,000 of the local planets reaches light and life. Okay.
You know, it's
Which
also
brings-
worth saying, yeah, go ahead.
Which brings up an interesting point. Any planet that's already reached light and life, when their population dies, they don't wake up on the mansion world. They wake up on the system capital.
Hmm.
Okay.
On which
Jerusalem.
is
Jerusalem, right?
Oh,
Because that's the level they would be when they died. The same way, if you fuse with your adjuster on this world, what does that mean? That means that you may bypass all 7 mansion worlds. Okay.
I just
Think
wanted to
about
say,
it.
Roger, yeah,
think about it this way. The purpose of the mansion world is to get rid of the mark of the beast. All things that we do that are bestiality. Okay.
Purgatory.
Yeah. Purgatory in essence. It gets us to the point of perfection. And once we've reached that point of perfection, what happens? You fuse with your adjuster. And when you fuse with your adjuster, you still need to learn certain things, but you would learn it from a different point, which would put you on the system capital. Now, in our local system, the way it works, even if you wake up on the system capital after fusion, if you fuse in this lifetime, you still have to do what? You still have to go back and teach on each of the 7 mansion worlds to gain the experience of those coming through that process. Okay. It's the experiential thing that you can't forego. Okay, so you still have to go through the mansion worlds. You just, your home would be the Jerusalem, the system capital.
So, hey,
Okay.
Roger, I just wanted to say, do you think it'd be somewhat like a privilege? Like, hey, he came from 606 and then he went through the mansion worlds and he received all that training. And well, what do you think?
It's a privilege either way, Tim, because if you wake up on the system capital, that's a great privilege because you have progressed in the life in the flesh to the point of perfection where you're ready to go on, but you haven't gained the experiential knowledge from those worlds. So
Right.
you can't forego it. So it's a privilege and a curse. And waking up on the first mansion world and going that way is the same exact thing too. It's a privilege and a curse, isn't it? Because you're cursed because you can't go from the top and go down. You go from the bottom and come up, right? So it's the same thing with us coming from Urantia, planet 606. And the fact that we've come through a rebellion, we're cursed that the fact we had to live through this rebellion, but we're blessed because of the knowledge that we gain from going through the rebellion. Does that make sense? So it's a curse and a blessing and a curse, right? If you want to call it that. All right. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. And this is a little picture of the non-permanent ones that's assigned. Okay. And this is 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. All right. And they're going to tell us about the last 4 here. Rodney, did you just read?
I did.
Okay. Gary, would you take the next one?
Okay, numbers 21, 22, 23, and 24 are likewise temporarily filled while being held in reserve for the great teachers of other and subsequent ages, which undoubtedly will follow the present age. Whereas of the magisterial sons and teacher sons, and the ages of light and life are to be anticipated on Urantia, regardless of unexpected visitations of divine sons, which may or may not occur.
Okay, so we know we haven't ever had a magisterial son yet or a teacher son yet. So these slots will be filled by teachers who come along during that periods of time. When the magisterial son comes to the planet, we'll have individuals that will step up and start teaching what they had to say. Okay. And at that point, these will be slots that will be filled by the great teachers of that era.
How would we recognize a magisterial son or what I'm saying is, would he be like walking around like Jesus did, like on earth, and say, hey, dude, come with me and all that stuff? Or you got an A,
Yes, Gary, he would, because he would be doing a bestowal just like Jesus did. Okay.
So a magisterial son would be when a teacher son would be similar.
Yeah, similar to a teacher son. He would go around and try to spread the word of God. He would try to tell it. He would let everyone know, I'm a magisterial son and this is my job, basically.
It wouldn't be somebody like Mohammed.
Probably not.
Because he killed people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying he probably would. Number one, he wouldn't have anything to do with war ever, ever. Right?
So he's
War
not
is not,
Jewish.
no, well, war is not a sanctioned thing for anything in the universe. Okay. War is never sanctioned. The only thing that's allowable as far as war goes is self-defense. How do we know that? We know that from the paper on the government on a neighboring planet.
72.
Yes, that's the only way we know that. It's allowed for self-defense only. That's the only allowable excuse for warring against your neighbor. Okay, it's only for self-defense. What's a good example of that in our lives within the last 5 days?
Israel.
Hmm.
Would you
You have
not include?
you have a terrorist attacking
Yeah.
Israel.
You have a terrorist attacking another country, Israel, so they are justified in doing what? Defending themselves.
Defending themselves, yeah.
Now, does that extend to counterattacks?
You got me, Gary. I
Well,
don't know.
Jesus, when you think about it in part 4, did say something like he did see the justice for criminals being executed.
Yes.
I'm paraphrasing.
Well, he said it this way. He said, your peers have judged you worthy of death.
Hmm.
Okay. So look at it this way. If your peers in your country, and that would be your country's government, chooses to go to war because of someone warring against you, that would be your peers deciding that it was justified for you to kill other people, go to war. You see what I'm saying?
Kind
And
of,
hey, Rod,
maybe.
It's not the same thing as in the Old Testament where Abraham ran around and tried to wipe out every other tribe. You know, Melchizedek tried to keep him from doing that. Remember?
Mhm.
Okay. That's not the same thing. Okay. Because these other tribes were not hurting Abram during that period of time. He didn't become Abraham until after Melchizedek. But Abram was going to wipe out all 12 tribes and take over the world, just like Hitler tried to do, and just like all these other people tried to do. But he become enlightened by Melchizedek, so he stopped him from doing that. Matter of fact, when he came back from one of the wars that he wiped out every man, woman, and child, what was he getting ready to do? He was getting ready to sacrifice his own son because he was successful in wiping out every man, woman, and child of another tribe. Okay.
One mean dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, you want to
these were
talk
not
about a
nice.
despicable person, and they chose him. I mean,
They
my
were not-
God, you makes you wonder about God's preference. I mean, going to
No,
pick
but
somebody else?
But Melchizedek sensed the fact that with a leader like that, he could turn him into a God-fearing that would spread the word of God most effectively than any other leader, because everyone knew him, right? Everyone knew who Abram was. Okay. So when you read the Old Testament, you think it's all hunky and dory and everything is great. There are stories in the Old Testament that should make your skin crawl. They really should, because they're not the will of God. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
but
that was
they
the
also
flip
tell
side of
us,
that guy too, was that
Huh?
that was the flip side of that guy, of him, is that for all the terrible things he did, he was a really extraordinary human too. He was an
Yes.
incredible leader, and
Yes.
people followed him. He couldn't have accomplished all those terrible things if he didn't have a lot of people willing to go along with him. So, yeah.
Neil,
Okay.
did you notice something though in this list we went through? Did you see Abraham on that?
Nope.
No, Moses is.
Moses is, because
Mm.
Moses, led his people
But
out of bondage, but he didn't go
Moses,
around killing people,
Moses was humble.
He was. And he was so humble that most of the stuff he did from people that followed him, like his Isaac and the sons and things like that. He didn't take credit for everything, himself. That's the sign of a great leader. Think of it that way. If you get someone that goes, it's all about me, it's all about me, it's all about me, that little light should come up in the back of your head saying, I don't know about that, Yep. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
So hey, Roger, it was a very common practice in those times of Abraham to have those child sacrifices, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Because their pagan neighbors used to take babies and put them on heated idols that an
Yes.
idol would have their hands.
Human sacrifice was common.
Correct. Yes.
Not only that, they would not only sacrifice people that eat them too.
Yes.
I mean,
Mhm.
this was the way it was back then, right? And that's part of the job of Melchizedek to stop all this stuff. Yeah, to stop all this stuff, right? And he did a great job of it too. If he got rid of the whole concept of sacrifice completely before Jesus came, it would have been a wonderful thing. But what happened when Jesus came, then we had Paul come along and he stuck it right back in there again,
Yeah.
And I just
So-
had one more question. Could you compare the incarnation to Melchizedek to say to a magisterial son in terms, would the magisterial son be
Yes.
a little
It's
bit
the-
higher up or?
It would be the same situation, but the difference is this, Tim. A Melchizedek incarnation is an emergency incarnation to keep
Correct.
the concept of God alive. A magisterial son is not an emergency incarnation. It's a planned incarnation along the progress of evolution of time of a planet. That's the difference. Okay.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
a good example of that is this. We're at a universal low in spiritual things on this planet right now. Okay. We've got spirituality breaking out like nobody's business all over the planet. That's not what I'm saying. What we are doing is we're, as a society, following group thought or group things that have to do with the internet, giving up control of one's rights, letting governments run amok. All these things are ungodly. Okay, that's the difference. Where the spiritual awakening going on in this planet, the Urantia book is spreading like wildfire. I don't know if y'all know that or not, but it is spreading like crazy all over the planet. And so with that spreading, we're going to have a spiritual awakening shortly. And at that point, we will probably be preparing ourselves for a magisterial son. Okay, that's the importance of that. So it's getting to be time. You could start watching for a magisterial son. If I was a young child, I would think maybe by the end of my life, I would see a magisterial son come to the planet.
Hey, Roger.
We're all old, so I don't expect that to happen before I
Right.
die. But it's liable to. We don't know. But how do we know that's actually who it is? I can't say for sure. I'm like y'all. I only have to go what I feel. And there's been people that come along and claim to be magisterial sons in our lifetime, just a few years ago. There was somebody running around saying that he was the magisterial son and in India.
Oh,
And
no.
I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I'm skeptical.
If you think about it, what you just said, Paul, Roger, we have a awakening spiritual,
Mhm.
and we have a internet, let me follow and be a drone, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those two, by their nature, will conflict,
Yes. Yes.
come together, and there will be a revolution, justification, adaptation, something. There's going to be a clash.
It's a reckoning. There's a reckoning coming, Gary. We can't have artificial intelligence controlling the world and have men have free will at the same time. You can't give control over to something that's not real, and artificial intelligence is not intelligent. Okay, they named it the this wrong thing. It's like saying military intelligence, right? The two things don't go together. Okay, and that's what artificial intelligence is. It's right up there with military intelligence. It's not smart. It's not intelligent. Okay.
But come on, and you was a former service person. Come on now.
Yes. Well, that's how I know. You know, that's how I know. I see it every day at the VA. You know, every time I have to go down for medical care, I see what this artificial intelligence or military intelligence is. You know, no common sense whatsoever. Okay. And I can say that because I'm a doctor. I'm not stupid. You know,
I
may
can
not
tell
be-
you this honestly,
Yeah.
military intelligence kept me out of the Navy.
There you go.
I
What
went
can I say?
down to be recruited, and I was
Mhm.
serious about signing up, etc. And when I
Mhm.
met this recruiter and the way they ran things, I walked out of there and I says, do you really want to put up with that for the next 4 years of your 4 to 6 years of your life?
Yeah.
And I says, I don't think I could survive with that, people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Well,
fit.
I tell my wife all the time, when you go in the military, you sign your life away for that period of time. You lose your choice. That's what being in the military is. When I put up my hand and swore to defend the Constitution, I gave up my life for that period of time. I know that I gave up my life. I chose to give up my life. Okay. Because it was during Vietnam and I knew at any time they could send us over there and you could die any minute. Okay, so you make that choice, but if you are not willing to take that stand, you have no business going in the military, right? You really don't. And I am grateful for everything that's the military did for me. I'm grateful for the healthcare I get, even though it's substandard. But at least, you know, I've had what, 4 scans, you know, 3 MRIs, a CAT scan and a PET scan in the last 2 weeks. So, you know, I've got something serious wrong, but without that health care, who would pay for that? You know,
You would.
I would. That's right. And I'm end up going to have to pay for half of it anyway, you know, because you cannot, because of the way the military, the way the system's set up does not benefit veterans. We're second class citizens. You can't go out and get health care. If you don't go through the VA system and talk to the idiot doctors, the idiot, the PAs that don't know anything, you know, you have to go through the system just to get approved to see an outside doctor. And they'll only approve you for 1 visit. You know, you never go to a doctor and in 1 visit get cured. You know what I'm saying? They can't even figure out what's wrong with you.
Yep.
So anyway, I'm just ranting and raving.
It's 7 o'clock.
Oh, is
Oh, wow.
we got
How
through
time
2
flies.
paragraphs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is
this has been a
because of
great
Tim.
meeting. Oh no, it's because of me.
Yeah.
But we love you back, Tim.
I'm so happy to be here.
You should come back more often. You know that.
I can't hear you, dude.
Yes.
Why, so we can get through 1 paragraph next time?
You mentioned about.
Well, you know,
you told me
Roger
about
said I'm a
the-
slow
the
learner,
meat-
so you would benefit me.
The meat.
Oh, yes. Listen, y'all don't run off after I sign up. I want to tell you something I found out last night that's very important for everybody. So let's close it out for tonight since we're at 7:01. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to share. I'm sorry I got off on wild goose cases tonight, but we all benefited a little bit, I hope. So we'll try to make up for it next time. We thank you. We give you the praise in your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Man,
Let me shut down everything here. Stop the share. Stop the recordings.
I was just gonna
Mhm.
say, man, I've been seeing a lot of pastors teaching and preaching the wrath of God and,
Excuse me,
politics.
wait, just, Facebook is still on, Rogers.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
trying
it's
to
good
shut it
now.
off now.